Hello everyone, and welcome back to World of Warships Blitz with Terry. A couple of you have asked, why am I using the engine boost early, for example, in the Richelieu? And as far as I remember, I've seen somebody, it might have been Sly47, mentioning that the engine boost actually improves acceleration. So, but I haven't actually tested it. Figured I'll go and do that. So, the Richelieu. The Richelieu has an engine boost 3, which increases maximum speed by 16% for 25 seconds. Doesn't say anything about acceleration. So I figured I'll go and test that. So what I've done is I have recorded basically 2 videos in the training room. Same scenario, same ship. In one video, I was starting out firing the engine boost as soon as possible. And in the other video, I have started firing the engine boost only once the ship had reached maximum speed. So there are 2 things that I'm curious about. The first one, obviously, is to answer the question, does engine boost affect acceleration? Because according to the description here, it does not. It only says it increases the maximum speed. And which one's better? So let's watch that, and I'll be putting both of them next to each other, and I'll be running a frame timer on it, so you can see that what's happening at which timestamp, and then we'll look at some statistics afterwards. So here we go. On the left side, I am running the engine boost as soon as the ship's actually starting, and on the right side, I will be kicking off the engine boost once the ship has actually reached maximum velocity. And we can kind of look at the circles here. This is an epicenter map, and we can see which one is pulling ahead and which one is getting behind. So right now you see you see that both now have the engine boost up. It looks like the first one was a little bit ahead at this point, and yes, it's still ahead. So the one that ran the engine boost early definitely is still ahead, and but now the engine boost has expired, and now the second ship that has to run the engine boost later is obviously starting to pull ahead. So and then we'll wait until that engine boost also expires, and then I will be looking at the numbers and sort of at the final tally. Okay, here we go. This is the end of it. So this is how far it goes. Both engine boosts are down, and the ship that has triggered the engine boost later is definitely gone further over the same amount of time than the ship that has triggered the engine boost early. So the next thing I've done is, well, first of all, that sort of answers that question. But what I've done is I've taken the time every second and put that into a graph, and it looks like this. So there are slight differences here, because I obviously haven't been able to precisely time, both at the same tick. So we're seeing very slight differences here. But what we notice is that the difference between the one that boosts early and that boosts late, within the first 7 seconds, is around 0.3 knots. Then it kind of goes up to 0.5 knots, and then at 14 seconds we're starting to see around 2 knots of a difference, and then around 21 seconds we're starting to see a larger difference. So basically every 7 seconds we are seeing more or less a doubling of the difference until we are reaching the maximum difference at about 23 seconds. Where we have 3.5 knots difference, sorry. So the difference in knots, not in seconds, obviously. And then it drops off because the first ship's engine boost has reached its full potential, and the second ship is now starting to run the engine boost as well, which means the difference then is rapidly shrinking. So for the first kind of 13 seconds or so, the difference is really, really marginal between early boost and late boost. Then we are seeing the ship with the early boost pulling ahead in speed. And then once the second ship is running its engine boost as well, obviously it starts catching up, whereas the first one is plateauing here. And you can see that in the difference, which is the yellow line at the bottom. The first 12, 13 seconds, nothing much happens in terms of not a hugely noticeable difference. In terms of speed, then the speed picks up and we see the two lines diverging quite significantly until we reach about 23 seconds or so. Well, actually less than that, maybe 22 seconds, when it starts shrinking again because the second ship is starting to run the engine boost as well. So what does that tell us? Well, it tells us two things. First of all, from the visual observation of the experiment, we've noticed that the ship that triggers the engine boost later has traveled a further distance in total. And that's because I haven't really continued the graphs here, but that's of course obviously at about 30 seconds or so, it would actually have exceeded the speed of the first ship because that engine boost has already been expired. So the one who triggers later gets the gain sort of later, but gets the slower acceleration and the longer distance. The other really interesting thing is that until about 13-14 seconds after you have triggered the engine boost, the difference in speed isn't particularly noticeable. It really starts picking up at around that time. It is there, but we're talking about half a knot or less in speed difference until we're hitting the 14-15 second mark, and it sort of doubles every 7 seconds roundabout. So does that mean that you can, I mean, this is a battleship. I haven't done this with ships that actually have higher acceleration, so that would be the next interesting experiment that I might have to do. If I do this with an engine boosting destroyer, if the difference is more significant. But for example, in the Richelieu, if you are trying to do something like, oh dear, I am being affected by torpedoes, I must accelerate engine boost out of here, it's actually not particularly helpful in that regard, because it takes 14 seconds for a noticeable difference in speed between engine boost and non-engine boost in total knots. The difference is there. It's just relatively marginal. So after 7 seconds, you start seeing about half a knot. And after 14 seconds, you start seeing up to 2 knots, where it rapidly then spreads between the two. So, but yes, it's confirmed. Engine boost does improve acceleration. You can also see it here on the numbers. The ship with running the engine boost actually accelerates faster, although it is a gradual process, and it takes quite a while until you get there. In terms of total travel time, if you want to get to a faraway point as quickly as possible, so for example a capture circle or an island, depending on how long it takes you to get there, it might be beneficial to trigger the engine boost later. But that concludes our little exploration into game mechanics and statistics for today. Thanks everybody, I will see you next time. Bye bye.